Hi, I'm Shayna.
And I'm Tracy, and we are the creators of The Pump A Dump Show. We are moms, but we were women first. And in this podcast, we explore what it's like to be a woman who also happens to be a mom.
Before we were moms, we were women. Before we were moms, we were chilling. We were pumping and dumping. We're talking about something. This is the Pump A Dump Podcast.
Hey, guys.
Welcome back, breeders.
What up, breeders? Band of mothers.
BOMs.
Lovely women that we love.
We have a very exciting episode
Mhm.
today. We are super curious, and I think a lot of you may be super curious about CBD
Mhm.
and the cannabis world.
We thought we would talk about it because there's definitely a growing, I don't want to say movement, but cannabis and CBD in particular is incredibly beneficial to women, and then women who are moms. It helps so many things. But how do we know what to take? How do we know what's good, what isn't good?
Well, it's intimidating because it's different. Like there's a stigma, which we'll talk to our guest about later, but ultimately, you smoked weed in college
Mhm.
and you got super fucked up, and that's what people think cannabis is.
Right.
And then you see your friend who's like, "Oh yeah, I put CBD oil on my sore knees," and you're like, "Does that get her high?"
Right.
There's so many questions and
Mhm.
kind of misinformation out there, and we have an amazing guest named Ashley Kingsley from Ellamenta, who's going to kind of help clear up a lot of that stuff for us.
Yeah. And so, one of the reasons we want to talk about it, because it is growing so popular, and you guys know we're based here in Colorado, so we're super high right now.
Always.
No, just jokes.
After this episode,
After this
actually,
episode,
they may have been high.
Yeah, no. But it is growing, CBD in particular, and CBD is legal. Like, you don't have to be in a state that has legalized marijuana to consume or use CBD products, but it's very confusing, and you can order CBD online. But again, what's good, what isn't good. But there's just so many medical benefits for it. I mean, I did a little research, but 62% of CBD users reported using CBD to treat a medical condition. And the top 3 medical conditions were pain, anxiety, and depression. And
all things that moms have all the time.
and females using it is rising year over year. Now 38% of cannabis users, which is weed, are women. So
Did you say 38%?
38%.
Gosh, shouldn't it just be 50? It's so weird.
Sure. And it is. It's funny, but that's way larger than it was a few years ago. And we're learning so much science about even THC, which is the stuff that gets you high, that you don't have to take so much that you're blown out stone to treat a lot of really common medical conditions and make yourself feel better, and you won't be high at all.
Not to mention that there's people who believe it cures cancer. So
exactly. And Shay and I mean, we've talked about it. Shay and I both use. I've been using CBD plus a little THC to sleep, and have weaned myself off sleeping pills, which I've been taking since time started. It feels like I'm a terrible sleeper, and I'm actually sleeping through the night, which is a miracle.
Right. And I certainly, I have smoked a fair
smoker,
a fair amount of weed in my life. I definitely smoke a lot less now that I am a mom, ultimately because I like to actually get high, not just take like
a little bit.
So I don't really do it as much anymore. And I definitely don't do it, I guess I don't do it around my kids, but when I became a mom, I would be so tired. So I would want to, get high, and then it just would make me so tired because I was just so tired in general. I'm finally, I think because we live in Colorado and we have access to so many different kinds.
Like in good stuff that's not, laced with LSD or all these horror stories that people hear.
I've never smoked weed that was laced with
me
LSD.
either.
But I certainly now, I can have one hit off the vape pen and be just a better person.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
And if you guys listen to our woo-woo episode, we're still glowing over Kristen's nighttime
Oh my gosh.
like her nighttime
ritual.
ritual where she takes only one hit off of a joint and then does some yoga.
She like makes up her own yoga.
Yeah, and sometimes she takes a bath, I think.
Look,
and
I am pretty sure that 100% of the songs that I've ever written have been
I'm pretty sure.
when I was high.
Yeah.
And when I before kids and was like in my 20s and living in New York City, I would kind of just get high to go do anything. I was just super creative. If I needed to clean the house, I would do it.
It suits you. It's like, I mean, you've said it makes you feel like you're like the best version of yourself.
And that's not for everybody.
No.
And I'm certainly never, even then, I never thought I was so high that anyone in my life even really noticed that I was acting dumb or all the things that of can happen.
But
when
now
you're
I'm
super
just
stoned.
reminiscing about all the times I used to drive to Chicago to see you and like
all we do is smoke weed.
and I'd make you sing.
Oh gosh, just sit in the living room and sing.
Sing in Chicago.
Certainly it's
so good.
It was a nice thing when we had a lot less worries in our lives. But
Yeah.
Now that there's a whole other industry, there are ways to utilize it that isn't just being fucked up.
Yeah, that's what I would say. The amazing thing is now that we have more worries in our lives, it's actually the perfect thing to utilize as medicine.
Right.
And you guys know I'm all natural hippie lady. So I just think that this is such an important topic and so much misinformation, so much misunderstanding, so much fear around it. And I mean, we use CBD to like rub on our backs. I mean, there's so many applications.
Right.
That are just so wonderful. And now there's this whole emergence of CBD in skincare. And what's that about? I mean,
let's find out.
We got a special guest. Special guest.
Our guest today is Ashley Kingsley. She is the co-founder of Ellamenta.com, a global cannabis wellness network for women. She's also a business, consumer insights and marketing consultant, and a public speaker and a mom. And she lives here in Colorado. And welcome, Ashley.
Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you.
Okay, we can't wait to dive in. We have a million questions.
Yes.
Tell us your cannabis story first and kind of give us some background on why you're so passionate about this.
So I came to cannabis as pretty much a last resort. For me, I had grown up in a household where alcohol was always available. It was just always there. It could have been the 80s, I don't know, but it was just always around. And I remember thinking this morning before I was coming over here that I had my first drink at my son's age, 9.
Whoa.
And I remember it crystal clear, 2 Michelobs.
Warm.
Yeah. Because it's just, it was the culture in our home. So early on, there's that alcohol piece, right? That's not real great. And then I turn into a teenager and I have endometriosis, but nobody knows what that is. So really what it is a lifetime of chronic pain and a lifetime of visiting doctors and them telling you that there's nothing wrong. And so we're led to believe that we're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
They had no clue what it was. So it was not until I was 28 years old that I got diagnosed with endometriosis. But in that span of time, I missed at least 1 week out of my life every month, whether it was middle school, high school, college, whatever. Really hard to have a job or anything else when your body is fighting you like that. And so doctors handed me pills very early on. Here's some Soma. Take 800 milligrams of ibuprofen. You'll be fine. Here's some Percocet. The pills didn't interest me, but as I got older, I realized that I was self-medicating. And so I have had 9 gynecological surgeries. I've had miscarriages, DNCs, because, that's part of that. I've had 3 laser surgeries to laser out the endometriosis. I've had 2 C-sections, so lucky. I have 2 kids, which is amazing. Um, and then I had a partial hysterectomy, and then I had to go back for an emergency hysterectomy.
To get the rest out.
Yes. So just this lifetime of pain. Well, between all those surgeries, somewhere probably toward the end, I would say around 2014, I found Percocet. And it was just the greatest thing. So it was super mom material. I didn't have to sleep or eat or do anything. My husband had been in the hospital for 5 weeks. I was a single mom and we had just moved. So I had to hold it together. But then I was at lethal levels every day. I was doctor shopping. I was about 120 milligrams of Percocet every day.
Oh my gosh.
So just to put that into perspective, you get a C-section and you get 5 milligrams.
Holy shit.
Okay, so I just kept going. And I would go to bed every night thinking, I'm not going to wake up in the morning.
Oh
I could feel
God.
my body's breathing suppressed. So thank God the doctors caught it, right? They caught it. Otherwise, I don't think I would be alive. And whatever the seeking is, I don't know what the seeking is, but I looked at cannabis and it was never of interest. And I said, this is my last hope. And so I started educating myself and I walked into dispensaries, and that was a really big disconnect because there just wasn't the education happening.
And it was your last hope for pain management, for what? Why were you seeking to get off of, to titrate down from Percocet? Or
I think everything. I mean, I started trying to get sober from alcohol at the age of 25 and did for many, many years, but I always found my way back. So in there mixed is depression, panic disorder, alcoholism. I mean, so there's just so many layers in there.
plus the fluctuation of your horrible hormones like mine that just make you go crazy and you don't even know it.
Right.
Yeah.
I went on birth control pills once and I almost had to drop out of school.
Oh yeah, I almost burned down the city. I remember walking myself to my doctor. Like I was like, you need to see me now. Walked in hysterical. I was like, I'm going to kill someone or commit a crime if you don't take me off this birth control.
It
You're
is.
like Godzilla, like
I was-
walking
I
through the
mean,
streets.
It's not. I'm
It
like
is
allergic to
nuts.
hormones. It was horrible.
It is nuts. And I just, yeah. So, I mean, there were so many layers. So for me, it was kind of looking at this like, okay, there's a little, so the addict in me would say, I can't go through life without something. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. That's just the way I think humans are seekers, right? We seek to learn. We seek. And I feel like there's a little bit of like, okay, well, I can't do life without something. How do I do it? And then I started using very small doses of CBD and cannabis in a tea. And I remember this was almost 3 years ago. I was going on a trip with my divorced parents, who are 72. It's my mom's 70th birthday, and my brother, to Austin, Texas. And I was sober. And I was like,
That was a terrible idea.
and newly sober. So I was like, okay, I'm not drinking. I'm not doing anything. I feel good. We're going to do this. And I'm like, but I'm going to bring my tea. Save my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I, for the first time ever, held my head up and felt like a normal human being.
Wow.
Like, I don't even understand. It was like an awakening. And I know that sounds really dramatic, but
Not especially not when it comes to family. It doesn't.
Right.
Just be able to say I
Yes.
can navigate this what for a lot of people is a very tense emotional time. And alcohol really, it helps, but then it makes everything worse.
Oh, everything, everything, it was a wonderful trip because I drew the boundary for the first time.
'Cause
And
you
I was
could.
like, I'm going to take care of myself. And so I have looked at cannabis and CBD as, I have, as soon as I found that relief, I'm like, other people, other women need to know that this is not the propaganda we got fed.
Yeah, it's
from
not
the
about
just say
getting
no.
stoned and
Walking around.
well, sometimes it's about getting stoned.
I mean, absolutely, but this is medicine.
Yeah.
So do you get stoned now?
Well, can you define stoned?
Like,
what does that?
I think
'cause
like in college when we would get high to just be like, oh, I can't feel my face. That's getting like super stoned, but that's not what CBD and
right.
cannabis
Or
Right.
and or like
can only be used for.
of course, but I think people also are curious, like, you take THC, which is the thing that gets you high. Are you getting high like you used to get drunk?
no,
Okay, that's
which
what
is
I'm-
amazing
Yeah.
because you keep addicts will keep seeking. Now, that's not to say my consumption started at 2.5 milligrams, which is a very, very low dose.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you start hearing about microdoses, that's what a microdose is. And it's using the lowest amount of THC and CBD for the maximum benefit. So I started there because I was terrified. I was
And-
so scared.
And just to clarify for people that don't have a lot of experience with that, mainly that's in an edible, right? Like
No.
or a
it can,
tea.
it can come the market has gotten more sophisticated and you can buy, I mean, it does come in gummies. You can buy 2.5 milligram gummies. You can buy tea. You can buy coffee.
But it's
I
not
mean-
like you can't smoke a joint and only get 2.5 is what I'm saying.
That's tough to say, but you can, and a lot of people don't know this. You can smoke a CBD only joint.
oh,
Mm.
interesting.
I mean, it might have trace amounts of THC in it, but you can go to a dispensary and ask for just CBD if you like to smoke the flower, and you can smoke just CBD or hemp.
And explain
joints.
to our listeners the difference then. So there's THC, which is the stuff that gets you stoned and high.
THC is yes, it's the psychotropic, psychoactive part of the plant.
Right.
Yep, and that's the lift. That's the high. That's, and then there's so many amazing pieces of this plant. I think we know about 41 different pieces. One of the other ones that you're hearing a lot about is CBD,
Yes.
which stands for cannabidiol. And that is just one part of the cannabis plant that is, having life-changing, life-altering results for people.
So okay, so let's I want to get back to your microdosing, but let's talk about CBD for a little bit. So this is one part, probably the best known part of this plant that's in the mainstream right now. And
Yep.
what and why should we use CBD? What's it do?
As women.
Okay, so here's the first thing. CBD is an inflammation killer. Now, when you think about all the things in our body, all the processed foods we eat, all the things we are exposed to in our environment, we are walking flesh inflammation, all of us. So CBD it kills inflammation. So then what comes from inflammation? Everything else, right?
Disease.
Sickness, autoimmune disorders, eating disorders, addiction. And it also brings, and I want to double check this because I don't claim to be a total, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an expert, and I bring other people in when I don't know the answers. But I believe that CBD also regulates our hormones and our body, and it puts it into homeostasis, which is where we belong. We're doing this. We're ebb and flow and up and down because we're not regulated. When the plant when we went through prohibition over 80 years ago now, what happened? We all got sick.
Mm.
We stopped eating from the ground. We started eating processed foods. Cannabis has been used in the cannabis plant. Just remember, it's cannabis plant, and CBD is part of that for thousands and thousands of years. It's been in our medicine cabinet.
It has, because that's what I was asking. You're saying, we need to be regulated, but we need to be regulated now, or humans just naturally need to be regulated, or is it just because our
we need to get back to regulation.
okay, is it because right now it's just kind of real toxic out there
Yes.
between pollution and even just electronics and all that stuff is just
All
having
the
a negative
stuff.
effect on our bodies.
I think
Always comes back
so.
to 5G with us.
What's 5G?
It's
Oh,
gonna
we'll
it's gonna kill all of
that.
us.
We'll discuss that in a different episode. I've got
I-
theories.
I really do think that the planet, as we all know, and we all know this,
Yeah.
this is not an environmental discussion, but what ends up happening is you bring your body back into homeostasis, right? By microdosing, taking CBD. The inflammation comes down. What happens next? You start to feel better. What happens when you feel better? You treat your body better. You eat better. You're not sick. You want to be better. So
You're a better
seeing-
mom.
You're seeing this amazing progression for people that haven't slept for 5 years. Yes, moms. There's so much we have to accomplish in a day, whether you have 1 kid or 10. I mean, and working moms.
Mhm.
You know, we're trying to do it all. So CBD is, again, it is I want to make this really clear. A lot of people will say that CBD is non-psychoactive or not psychotropic. That is incorrect, because anything that has any effect on your brain chemistry, that's an interaction.
Positive or negative.
Correct. So don't be misled by that.
So it is, but only because it reduces inflammation and allows you to feel better. So psychotropic doesn't always equate getting high or
Correct.
hallucinating or jumping off a building or any of this horror stories.
But
Correct.
for example, you can use CBD for anxiety.
You can use CBD. Basically, I mean, we're sort of going to the extreme now. Like, let's just dump it on our heads.
Right. I was going to say how much,
You know, like, let's just,
take a bath.
that's-
I rub it in my neck.
Well, don't think I don't rub it all over my face and stuff.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of misinformation out there. More the better, right? Don't Americans always think
Sure.
that? More,
Mhm.
bigger, better. You know, let's
If I can take
bath
100
in it.
milligrams, I'll take 550.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it'll
right.
be better.
right.
Okay. Don't do that.
With anything.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
She's like, let me break it down for you. Just don't.
just don't. The more you'll see, and we'll get into, you know, where to buy and how to be an educated consumer, but be an educated consumer and don't just look for the highest milligrams,
Right.
Okay.
right?
But
Because
I'm sorry, I'm very distracted by the fact that you just said that you put it on your face. Can we talk about that?
absolutely.
What there's like a whole skin thing going on
Oh,
with CBD right now.
yes.
Explain, please
Yes.
explain.
So much like it heals the inside of your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at your dermis, right? It's
Your
You look at
biggest-
your dermis. Look at my dermis.
I'm looking at my dermis. And your dermis is the biggest thing about you, right?
It's your
Yeah.
It's
biggest
skin,
organ.
Biggest
and It's your
organ.
biggest
Yeah.
organ. So think about all the stuff we put in. All the, you know, what is it? Phylophosphates and
Phthalates,
phosphates and
parabens,
stuff that
yeah.
just basically kills you.
Sure. Just,
So yeah.
just like
We just
mainlining
like 5G.
cancer.
Yeah. We're just like, hit
Just
me
like
up, man.
Hit me up with some cans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wash my hair. Woo! I mean, it's really bad.
Sure.
So what you'll see happen, I believe, is a lot of CBD companies, or a lot of companies, are now integrating CBD into their skincare lines. And
Why?
because
Anti-inflammatory.
anti-inflammatory. So think from the inside, it's going to calm everything down, equalize everything. It has done the same. Like, I use a CBD oil on my face every morning and a CBD sugar scrub. I don't wear makeup anymore. I don't use anything else. And my skin is like nourished.
glowing.
And it's the first time in my life because, you know, we all go through that anti-aging. This will do this. This is
Mhm.
good. None of it works. It's all a marketing, you know.
You can.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Can I say
Yes.
bullshit?
Yeah. Yes.
It is. And so I stumbled upon a product that I know where it comes from, where the stuff is grown, where it's tested, and there's nothing in it. You can eat it.
Yeah.
And that is where we need to get back to.
Does it Does it help with acne?
It helps with acne. It helps with anti-aging. It helps even out brown tone.
Melasma.
The one that I have found is it's a nurse that created this line. She quit being a nurse because she had eczema, and nothing was helping her eczema.
Mm.
So she created this line and cured her own eczema, and now she's realized, wow, what else can we do?
What's it called? What's the
So-
Yeah,
what's that
tell us
brand? Tell us.
immediately.
Tell
I
everyone.
know, you guys, I'm telling you what. The brand is Clean Coconut,
Oh.
and it's cleancoconut.com. And what
Okay.
she found was coconut was a great thing to formulate with, especially for skincare.
Mhm.
And that's really important. You want to look at what you're still. You think it's cannabis. This is I think one of my most shocking lessons in cannabis. And this was a couple of years ago. I had a couple speakers and they said, well, yeah, of course you have to care where your cannabis comes from. I'm like, well, it's a plant. It's fine.
Mm.
But actually, no. Now that everything is getting regulated and legalized, and there's still some shady areas, you don't know. We are finding CBD on shelves that have no CBD in it.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Just
just
a
not
label.
surprised in the slightest, right?
It's just a label, and you'll see some that we have 5,000 milligrams in here,
And we're gluten free.
and we're vegan, and we're gonna, I mean, just dump this on your head, and that's why, I mean, the consumers need to get educated 100%, and that's why I do what I do
Right.
every day, because it's
Well, let's explain then. So what Ellamenta is it's monthly gatherings in cities across the U.S. where women come together not to partake but to talk about consumer education, basically.
That's excellent. Yeah, I mean, it's basically the elevator it's a global cannabis wellness network for women. And we connect the women we serve with the brands we trust, because there, as we were saying, are a lot of not great ones out there. And we gather in women's circles in over 50 cities, and we talk about all of this. And we have an editorial calendar, so we touch on different things. Like one month it might be microdosing, another month it might be what is CBD. The last month it was CBD and beauty.
Right. And so when
So-
I was looking through your site, I was especially drawn to the sex stuff.
Yes.
Can we talk about
Yeah.
how you're helping women, especially moms who we talk about lube a lot on this show, but there's like CBD lube, you guys.
There is CBD lube.
Which helps with painful sex, with dryness, with both, with
Orgasms.
yeah.
Break
you
it
guys
down.
You guys are really
We're the Pump It Up. We need to know. Tell
We
us
need
now.
to
Tell us
know.
everything.
Our
Okay.
moms need to know.
Yeah. Well, so yes.
Not our
there-
personal moms, the moms who are listening
The
to the
moms
show.
out
I don't want to
there.
think about my mom and cannabis lube. Sure.
Well, that's the thing, is mainstreaming this, So yes, there are cannabis CBD lubes out there. And here's the big takeaway. Everything works differently for everybody. It's just like going to Walgreens, and what Benadryl might work for you is not going to work for you. You
Mhm.
need Claritin.
Right.
Okay, so just know that if you try anything, patience. Okay, so cannabis lube has never worked for me. I went into surgical menopause at the age of 38. So what you don't grow up learning is about menopause, which is a
Like
crime.
at all.
Like no,
Like
they-
zero information.
there's a book out there called The Pause. Like I'm
Except
not gonna.
that you go crazy and everyone should stay away from you is basically my takeaway with menopause.
Yeah, I mean, it's
terrible.
It's like well, I don't know. It's a disservice to our women that we are not teaching them. So what ends up happening to some during menopause is, and I forget what it's called. I forget the medical term, but your vaginal skin tissue.
It's called atrophy.
Thank you.
I know all about it.
Yes, because I mean,
Yeah.
it atrophies.
Yeah, it atrophies.
So trying to put anything inside there,
And it
is
atrophies
like-
because your lack of estrogen. Estrogen actually does a lot more than just give you your period. Estrogen actually plumps up all of your skin cells and keeps you plump juicy,
In Pump and Dump podcast terms, gives you a fat vagina.
So like a
But no,
ripe,
but, like,
ready.
It's why your skin. It's why your face doesn't fall off your face. It's a lot of things.
Sure.
But in your vagina, it keeps your vagina. Yeah, it keeps it fat. It keeps
so
it
it
juicy
keeps it nice and plump.
and nice and plump.
for-
And when you have estrogen taken away from you, as we all do as we age, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner until such point as when you put something inside of it, it feels like there are cuts, like someone is just like slicing up the inside, and it's torture to have sex.
It is. And I'm sure my husband's going to be thrilled, but you know what? He's been with me for this long. I mean, we were not able to have sex for 2 years,
Oh,
maybe even
sucky.
longer. I was getting ready to tell him, hey, dude, I get it. Like, go,
Yeah.
and he, it helps that he's 12 years older. So he's slowing down a little bit. But,
So it didn't work
So
for
it
you?
didn't work for me. And
Okay, well, let's reverse it. Hold on really quick. So what's the point of cannabis lube? Just
but it works for some. And so
it's for that mainly?
it is for, well, you could use cannabis lube and be 20. I mean,
It's just for a juicy
everybody.
vagina.
It is. And it's not going to get.
You've got to stop saying juicy vagina.
She loves that.
Listen, when you don't have one, it sounds real good.
Yeah, I miss my moist
Yeah.
vagina.
I didn't say that word, Shayna.
Moist. She didn't
You
say
hate the word moist.
Oh my gosh, stop saying it.
So anybody can use CBD or THC lube. You will not experience a high. So
Right.
if you do have pain, if sex is painful and you're not going through menopause, or you just want a better lube,
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, like, I'd way rather, use cannabis lube than like whatever the hell's
Sugar.
in that,
Like
like
Target.
like silicone,
Yes.
silicone.
Silicon Valley lube,
Just money, just lots of money.
money lube. No, I mean, you want to put something in there that you know where it's from.
Yeah.
And so I didn't find great success with that. But are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
So
you guys
ready.
so ready? Cannabis and CBD suppositories.
Up your butt?
You can put them right up your butt. You can put them right up your moist vagina.
Wait, wait, Tracy. Wait, I'm confused. So you use the suppositories were for the lining of your vagina?
Or just they're just another way to.
so let's look at
That's
this.
where
Yes.
we're differing on this right now.
So you could put it anywhere in that area because that whole area hurts for me. So it went vaginally, and what it did, 25 milligrams of THC, 25 milligrams of CBD. There is no high, and I was able to relax, and all the scar tissue it was, you guys, I'm not kidding. I'm surprised I'm not crying right now because I always cry, and that this is life-changing.
So,
100%.
and is this different than your microdosing? This is like in addition to, or is this considered microdosing?
Well, this,
Microvagging.
you just came up,
Veggie dosing.
you guys just came up with a new term, I think.
Cannabutt.
We could do this all day long, Ashley.
This is like what we do.
This is
Except generally it's on IM.
I want to be on this show all the time. This is great. So that's a tricky question, right? So what is a microdose? I explained it as being small doses, but what's happened to me after 3 years is smoking an entire joint several times a day is no longer microdosing.
Mm-hmm.
Sticking a suppository in your bum or your vagina it would be microdosing, I think, if the milligrams were down. But if you're in this much pain, I don't know. I don't know how
Okay.
to define that.
so.
Let me ask you. So many moms, new moms especially, it takes a lot of time to deal with the scar tissue and the
Healing.
trauma that you've
Yeah.
done basically to your butt from pushing out a kid.
I didn't have vaginal bursts, so
But yeah,
I did, and I didn't have a ton of butt trauma, but I know so many
is
women
that
who
the
did.
perineum tear?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, no, technically it's called butt trauma.
It is.
No,
Just
not at all.
I'm like, it is.
It's called birth butt.
Birth
God, I'm just so glad this is the one thing I
I
didn't
know.
get.
Here we
You and
go.
me both.
We're
Like,
educating
I
you
have,
now.
I have 44 scars on my stomach, but nothing happened
Nothing
to
to
my
her
butt.
butt or
Yeah.
vagina. So, but I feel like I have a lot of friends
Mhm.
who had terrible issues in their whole area down
torn
there
and-
yeah. Mhm.
afterwards,
Yep.
and just from the pushing, and they just like displaced everything. And so, is this something that like new moms should explore because of the anti-inflammatory properties of the suppositories?
So again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm.
Sorry,
I have to
we
say
will.
that.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
You
I
should
have
say
to
that.
say that, and I am not. Yeah. So
I guess I was just interested if you
Yeah.
met any moms who.
I have met. So it's really interesting. I have met moms that will take 20 milligram gummies before they give birth instead of an epidural.
Oh.
But the suppositories, yes. I mean, it's all about pulling the inflammation down, and it's there's nothing bad in them. It's just medicine. So I have another friend that has really bad hips. She's young and has to have 2 hip
Oh
replacements.
gosh.
And this is the perfect medicine for that,
Mhm.
right? It hits that spot. So it's not just, I mean, kids and childbirth and all of that, super. But then also look at, like, my husband has a sore back. I
Mhm.
have a sore back. Like, anything you can imagine, I would say, from like the belly button.
Okay, so a
down.
suppository really is localized to
It's
that
localizing
area.
it, yeah.
Fascinating.
time.
I love learning things I didn't
I
know. This is
know.
very exciting.
Oh, it's and this is a recent discovery for me because I just sort of gave up. I was like, well, I guess I'm dead at 45. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I kind of gave up. And then
And so sex is better now.
so, well, we're starting. It still hurts, but it's possible.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'm hoping, like everything else, it's a muscle you exercise and then it gets stronger. I'm hoping that's what happens.
Now, do you do just for my own knowledge, like do you also do hormone replacements? Are you taking your hormones?
You know, they gave me hormone replacement therapy after my hysterectomies, and I took the Viveldot for a year. And early on in my career, I worked for a hormone replacement therapy study. And the study went on for 10 years. There's too much cancer. There's just too much.
Right.
So I opted out of it. So I have nothing.
You have nothing inside you.
Nothing.
It's okay. I'm with you.
I have
nothing
nothing
either.
left. I still actually don't know if I have my cervix. And every time I go to my doctor, she asks me, have you had a PAP? And I'm like, I don't know where my cervix is.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? How could they not?
I
Didn't
don't
you know?
remember.
Well, it should be in your records.
I know.
Also,
it's just-
can't you see it?
Your
I-
cervix?
How would you see your
Well,
cervix?
I wouldn't be able to see it,
Oh,
but
you
like
mean the
I could look for
doctor.
you. Somebody would look.
So if my doctor's not seeing it, it's probably not there.
That's what I'm saying.
I-
You would see it.
I
A
am
person
very
would see it.
concerned that this isn't readily available in your medical records, given your history.
I had a really incredibly special doctor.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's a joke. She's always like, "Have you found your cervix?"
Well, how do you find your own cervix?
Well, so I don't know why. I actually don't know anything. I just know that when they go, they put the speculum
Well,
in, they
sure.
can see your cervix.
Yeah, no, I know.
So apparently,
What's
if you
the
can't,
other thing they take out? Your uterus.
They take well,
And
Oh,
your
it's my-
ovaries.
It's my uterus. I don't know where my uterus is.
well, if you had a full if you have a full hysterectomy, it takes out your ovaries, your fallopian tubes, your uterus, and your cervix. That's a complete hysterectomy. Otherwise, a standard hysterectomy that most women get is the removal of their uterus.
Right.
Usually your ovaries are kept so that you can continue to produce hormones. And they keep your cervix because you don't, unless it's causing you problems, you don't need to take
I
it.
think they kept my cervix.
Oh,
I
okay.
do think I have my cervix, but I'll have to find that out and get back to you.
I mean,
I don't know why. I just assumed that I could like easily look and see somebody's cervix.
oh, sure. I don't know.
I mean,
It looks like a donut, apparently.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Tracy, you'd like it. She loves donuts.
I do.
Oh man.
Okay, so the suppositories help the general area around, so it can help your lower back, your hips, your vagina, your cervix if you have one.
This is fascinating.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, think about prostate cancer. Okay, let's pull
Okay.
this in. Let's not think about sex for a second. Let's think about, ovarian cancer.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you've all heard, and this is a really important point, that THC, when mixed with CBD, is a very powerful medicine, even if you are mixing the tiniest dose.
And when you say powerful medicine,
It
I just
eats
want
cancer.
oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
It
And is that
eats
because of
cancer.
inflammation or is that different? I mean, cancer is cells that are
It,
bad.
it literally, if you picture a Pac-Man, it literally goes and just eats cancer cells through your body, and it leaves the good ones. Now, not mixing any THC in with the CBD, I don't know enough about. But I will say, I mean, I've seen ovarian cancer, I've seen stomach cancer. These are the things we can use for those on top of other alternative treatments. But yes,
in lieu of chemotherapy?
I mean, that's a personal choice.
Sure.
But if knocking, anything were to happen to me as far as cancer, I would not go that way.
Based on your research.
Not at all. I've seen someone walk out of leukemia in a year using cannabis. Again, my mom survived pancreatic cancer and uses cannabis for pancreatitis pain now because she has it all the time. I've seen too much now to know that what the current medical system is just absolutely one of the biggest fuck shows I've ever seen. And the doctors in there, when you ask them, hey, what do you think about CBD or cannabis? I had a doctor tell me a couple weeks ago, don't you think we would be using that if it worked? They don't even study it in
Yeah.
med school.
That's what my doctor said. I mean, he was pretty cool after my surgery because I asked him the same thing, and he said, look, I can't say either way. All I know is that there's not enough verified research for me to, as a doctor, recommend it to you and confidently.
They can't.
They can't.
They'd lose their license at this point.
But he straight up, he was like, I wish we would commit money to studies to find out, because I mean, my doctor who did my hysterectomy was a cancer doctor, a female cancer doctor. I mean, he's seen the worst of the worst. And he was like, I wish that we would, take the time to do the research. But I mean, that's a whole pharmaceutical.
Well, and it's also, there's not a lot of research happening around. Well, I should back up. There is so much more cannabis and CBD research and the whole plant, hemp, all of it happening right now. But until it is federally legal, we can't get grants. This is all private funded. We can't do the work. So what this has become for so many is anecdotal, right?
Okay.
So if you can say, well, I saw my friend get up and walk away from leukemia and she's clear. I've seen stomach cancer. I've seen face cancer. Because as you are in this industry, you begin to meet all of these people who have done this.
Can we talk about skin cancer for a second?
Yeah.
So topical CBD with
I
THC
would
in it.
absolutely mix it with THC.
So I have a cream that I use like on my neck and my back when it hurts, and it says, it's CBD, and then it has like a little tiny hint of THC in it. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Or are there like specific like skin cancer prevention CBDs? Or skin
there
cancer
will be.
prevention
Marketing.
There will be.
So you're just looking at ratios, or what do I have a history of skin cancer. Both my parents have it.
both my
Shay's parents
parents.
have it. Everyone in Colorado has skin cancer. So what can I put on my face like today?
That's a question
Or
I
all
don't
my
have an
moles.
answer to, because I think I don't know enough about. I do know that if you use CBD or straight up THC and you put it on your face, you are protected. So I don't know if you've heard of Rick Simpson. Rick Simpson, God bless him, is the guy that really pushed this out there that THC kills cancer.
Is he a doctor?
No, he had skin cancer and he cured himself. multiple times. And so, and this is going on 20, 30 years. This guy has been advocating and he's been pushed down, pushed out of the light. He has tons of YouTube videos on how to make your own medicine. And I mean, you can make topicals with, because the THC will literally eat it.
That's fascinating.
It will. And he is the perfect person to look up if you're dealing with skin cancer or skin concerns, because that is why he started making medicine.
Rick Simpson.
It's Rick Simpson. And be real careful when you go to a dispensary and someone's selling Rick Simpson oil, do not buy it. He has not given the rights at all.
Gosh, this world.
Well, this is what happens with an unregulated industry. So part of me,
Absolutely.
you know, the hippie fringe anti-establishment person that I am loves that it's not regulated yet, because my gut says we're probably getting the best quality stuff because it's people who are passionate that are making it. I mean, obviously there's also shysters, but once it gets regulated, then Pfizer's going to want to buy all of the growing and all of the plants, and then we're just going to get a
It's already
Pfizer
happening.
version of cannabis or CBD and THC versus like something that, you know, feels more intimately grown from like a Colorado farm from people who are putting their heart and soul into doing it right.
I have a really hard time with that. It,
With what I
on one
just said.
side, no, no, I love what
really
you just
aggressive.
said.
You're very
God,
wrong.
you're so no. I really love what you just said because it's a very important point, and we're in a really. I try to tell people a lot of the time because the cannabis industry is a very interesting space.
Mm-hmm.
It is the hardest startup space I've ever been in, and I've been doing this for 20 years now. That this time is going to go away quickly. That walking into dispensaries and being able to sniff the jars and really have the experience, even though it always isn't a good one, it is going to be owned by Pfizer and the big pharma. So, like, take a good look around, because right now, consider it like the breweries. They're small batch right now.
Mhm.
And I don't know that we'll lose the small batch because I think people want that. We're evolving, and
It's
we
like,
understand.
just like it's like everything else, like
Right.
you know, grass-fed beef and all of
Right.
that. There's always going to be a niche industry.
There will always be a market for that. But what's really interesting is the black market is still huge.
Oh, is it?
Yes, especially in Canada, because there's so many regulations. Like in Canada, you can't even put branding on anything. You cannot brand any of your weed, like any of your products, nothing. It's all in white containers. How is anybody supposed to
Remember
be
what they
drawn
buy.
or-
I thought Canada was supposed to be super cool.
It is super cool, but they have all these different regulations, and the regulations go from town to town to town to city. You know,
Oh,
so everyone's
geez.
like, "Well, it's legal, so why?" But the federales have not gotten. You know,
Okay.
once that happens, it's gonna be a domino effect for sure.
And
Okay,
we
so-
should always try to buy organic weed. Is that kind
Yeah,
of the,
what do
the
we
sense
look
that I
for?
get?
It's a great question because you think it's weed. It should be organic, right? But it's not. And yes, look for you want to my thing, and I'm still learning. It's a huge journey, but I am a med patient, and so I look for dispensaries that have their own grows. They don't literally farm that out.
Mhm.
I want dispensaries that grow and don't use what pesticides.
because what
and
I've heard is that weed in particular is heavily sprayed.
it is heavily sprayed, and so really what it is then you get, so it's all treated and sprayed and cured, and then you pick it up at the dispensary, and what you're smoking is just as harmful.
Roundup.
You're
Just
smoking Roundup. Yeah, essentially. I mean, I know many people that don't do this, but it's tough because we got to keep up with the demand, right?
Mhm.
So here's the advice I would give. Ask where their grow is. Ask what they spray on it. Ask if they spray. And also ask, when you're looking for, if you're buying flower, smell everything, because what you are drawn to is what your body needs.
Oh,
Smell everything.
Tracy told me the other day that the essential oils that you are not drawn to are what your body needs.
That is really interesting. So we're going to have a talk about terpenes, not
Yeah.
today,
Because
But
terpenes are in essential oils,
And they're in cannabis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think that's very interesting because everything I've read is like if you have an abhorrent, reaction to sage essential oil, it's actually what your body is saying.
I'm sorry, but my body is never ever gonna need patchouli. Ever.
You probably have never smelled good patchouli. I have patchouli on right now.
But I will tell you that I started using that Love and Beauty and
Uh-huh.
Planet shampoo for
I
colored
use
hair.
that, yeah.
And it's like the one for colored hair is rose. And it's very, like the first time I used it, I was like, oh my God, my grandma's in the shower with me. Like this is really fucking strong. And now
Crave it?
It's totally lovely. And my hair's never been shinier, you guys.
And your grandma's in the shower with
And-
you.
Grandma's in the shower with me. That's a new song I'm going to
That's a
write.
new song. Okay, so that's for specifically for cannabis,
For flower.
for flower. Okay,
yeah. So if you're going in and you don't want to smoke, a lot of people are like, I never want to smoke, right?
Mhm.
And that was me in the beginning because I wasn't a smoker. There are products out there where you can get. It's called distillate. No, it's isolate. It's called isolate. So they've taken all these things out of the plant, and it comes in a powder, so you can pour it in your coffee. You can cook with it. It comes in CBD only. It comes CBD and THC, so you can make infused meals with it.
You got me with put it in your coffee.
Yeah. Okay, so I went from the tea to putting the distillate in my coffee every morning.
I'm going to put distillate. And what was the other thing we were supposed to put in our coffee? Fiber.
Inulin.
Inulin.
I am doing
Inulin
that.
and distillate.
Fiber.
So,
Yeah.
but okay, so I take a CBD THC chocolate at night to sleep, and it's like changed everything.
What are you allowed to say which one?
Sure.
No,
No
one owns us.
I think it's called Incredibles.
Oh my God. Okay.
It's black cherry.
I am so glad you said that.
Why?
Because
Good or bad?
they are I love you, Incredibles.
Oh, good. It's
They
so yummy,
are-
and it's like legit good chocolate. It's cherry chocolate.
It's that is where I got hooked. I was like,
that's
because
so
they've been in the
funny.
market for a long time.
Oh yeah, it's delicious. Okay, so but my point is, I get the bud that's still in there is still sprayed.
Yes.
So
Oftentimes it's sprayed with sugar on top.
so if you're looking for an edible, how do you know you're not getting these sprayed?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I get it from like a visceral standpoint. If you're looking at like the little green things, okay, I don't want something that's totally sprayed. But if you're eating it, it's the same idea of buying organic processed food versus buying organic fresh food. Even if it's processed or it's mixed in something else, it's still not organic, so it's still sprayed.
Correct. And so the best thing you can do, and this is for everyone out there, so many people don't know so much, right? Ask questions. So I don't know the answer to that.
Ask questions of like your bud tender.
Ask questions of your bud tender.
Okay. Do
Absolutely.
Do they
Or-
have those answers?
Well, if
I've never had anyone because I keep asking them to look at me like I'm like, oh, you're that lady that's
Yes,
not going to
and
like
you
anything
know
in the
what?
dispensary.
and be that lady, because you know what? We deserve to know what's in our medicine. And if they can't tell you, leave that dispensary.
So is Incredibles okay?
Incre-
I'm not just eating Roundup at night.
I'm telling you what, I think they are one of the most honorable people in this
Oh,
that's
yay.
good to
industry.
know.
Absolutely.
So if you're just okay for our listeners who live in a state that it's not legal to buy cannabis or aren't even interested in that part yet, if you want to look for CBD, if you want to start there, give us some guidelines.
I would never, ever, ever buy CBD oil off of Amazon or off of Target or off of Walgreens. Any of these big conglomerates that have jumped in are basically white labeling,
Mm-hmm.
throwing their label on it. There is no protocol for testing. So basically, they don't have to test anything.
So you don't even know what you're getting.
Yeah, so we have gone and bought bottles and taken bottles off the shelves and tested them, and it's olive oil.
Oh gosh.
That's how bad people are being robbed right now.
That's
So
depressing.
I would say if you're going to look for CBD oil or hemp oil, Extract Labs is great.
And they
For
can,
high
even if they
quality.
go to alllamenta.com, you
Yeah,
can
you
see
guys
some
have-
of the things that
We have some, but and we're a startup, so we want to have so many more, and we do have some reviews.
But even in your articles you recommend quite
Yeah.
a few.
Yep, and we have a book coming out in June, and there'll be a lot of brands in there that were like, this is it. these are the
Mhm.
ones you want to work with. I mean,
Gosh.
there's other great brands out there, but it's different in every state.
It's
Yeah.
just so ridiculous to me that you cannot go get CBD. It's so crazy to me that it's still legal. It just like baffles me.
Well, as soon as Texas, I think Texas just rolled over a little bit. So as soon as that happens, I mean, the farm bill going through, the hemp
That
farm
was
bill,
huge.
that's huge.
Yeah.
So now what's going to happen is you're going to see all the, white man politicians, Boehner, anyone, get involved in the cannabis industry. Did you guys know John Boehner is now?
No.
What?
Yes.
He's
He's
what?
involved.
He's like
He
so
wants to
make the
involved.
money.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's
like
all-
I think he's like hemp farming and like
I mean, great. I
mean,
guess.
yeah. I don't know.
I
John
know.
Boehner. But yeah. So it's the evolution is going to be really interesting.
And what about CBD in kids? I know a lot of people have heard about the effects on, Charlotte's Web and epilepsy for children. Does that story, about the girl who had the seizures a million times a day, she was taking CBD with THC?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So what about for kids? Is this something that feels like it's a safe place to venture with your children if you feel like they need it, or?
Well, here's my take. I don't know anyone right now that isn't medicated in some way, shape, or form, and it's including myself. Yes, I give my kids CBD 100%. And why? Because they display the same behaviors that everyone else, all these other kids are displaying. They're on meds. I'm not giving my kid Ritalin. If I know where it's come from and I've done my research and I've done the checking, I have Incredibles, dropper in my daughter's room and one in my son's room. And they take a dropper a day. And they are balanced and they are not subdued with medication. I've never had to medicate them. One has sensory processing disorder. The other one has misophonia. I mean, so we're dealing with stuff. And this, is it a cure-all? No, they're kids. But we're
You
teaching
notice a
coping
change?
skills and some evening out. And really, I mean, some people will say, well, I don't feel anything. I don't notice anything. Well, guess what? You might need to use this for a couple months.
That
to
was
get
one
your
because I've read
body-
that it's compounded. Like that,
Yes.
the more you build up in your system, then the greater the effects are. So taking
Yeah.
my Incredibles on night 1 is very different than taking it on night 10.
Right. Yeah, it's like if you go on a diet for a day, it's like it's useless, right? Like if you're only to do something for 1 day or 2 days, this is part of your medicine cabinet now. That's my goal. Mainstream America, it is part of the medicine cabinet instead of the antidepressants, the anti whatever.
Well, and to be clear, so your children have things going on with them that would otherwise need to be, by doctor standards, medicated,
You
and
could've.
therefore
Sure.
you've chosen to not do that and to use CBD instead.
At this point, yeah, and don't think like, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I haven't gone, I'm not that far, but I know what I know now, and I look back and I'm like so angry at all the things that
Mhm.
we don't need that we're getting. But if my kids ever need extra support from modern medicine, hell yeah.
Mhm. Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be clear, so people who aren't just like, yeah, my kid's an asshole, I'm gonna give him
CBD
some
works
CBD.
for that.
Or maybe it does. There we are.
There you go. I'm telling you, it regulates moods. It helps
Mhm.
regulate. So, yeah, I mean, I think it works on, again, it works on so many variations, and
Right.
various things.
Interesting.
Postpartum specifically, most women go through it on some level, then get prescribed antidepressants have their own, like a lot of side effects, and they're very hard on your body to get back off of them.
Yep.
Do you see a future where we could pursue CBD and or with THC as an option rather than just going on Xanax or Valium or
That
Vermilion?
has to become the frontline defense. It has to.
Mhm.
Because what we're doing to our bodies right now is atrocious. And I've been on Klonopin, every other anti-anxiety, antidepressant med that there ever was. and I cannot get off the benzo.
Like even now?
I am trying with THC and cannabis and CBD, but it's been on it for 20 years.
What is benzo?
Since somebody handed me a benzodiazepine, which is like Xanax, it's very addictive.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to get off of it, I would essentially probably need to take 30. I mean, like even tapering, it's like the side effects. It's like harder. I've never been a heroin addict. Well, yes, I have. Opiates.
Yeah.
So Jesus. All right. Something else I gotta
Jesus,
come to
Ashley.
terms with.
We're really glad you came here today
I'm so
to
glad
tell
I
you
came
that
to-
about yourself.
Yeah.
But I don't even know what we were talking about now. That's just how
benzo.
Oh yeah, so benzos are like, I mean, and that was the first thing they handed me because I had panic disorder.
And this was how many years
This
ago?
was over 20 years ago.
Okay.
They're like, here you go.
And
Like,
just take
like,
this.
no coping skills. Don't learn how to breathe. Like, don't do any of that.
Right.
Just pop this every day for the rest of your life.
God forbid you take a conscious breath.
How about yoga?
Right.
Or you're 22 years old. Stop drinking so much.
Exactly.
Right.
Or let's look at your diet, or let's
Right.
look at how you're sleeping, or any of those things.
All of
or
those have
let's
to
look at
be-
your hormones, people.
Right.
No one cares about women's hormones in the way
No.
and how it affects you mentally.
Well, and what's
No.
fascinating, so I have not had menopause, but when you talk about the hormones and the stuff and the oils and the CBD and the hormones and this, it's fascinating that I literally don't know anything about my hormones.
I
I mean,
know.
and so mine are fine at this point, but it's just kind of like fascinating how much I just don't know. Like I just ignore it because I don't have any like
know. Well,
issues,
you
but I
don't-
should
unless
probably
you're,
kind
like,
of know.
Unless you have, especially endometriosis, because it's been something that's just not diagnosed.
So
I
many
mean,
women have
I had
it.
a cyst the size of a cantaloupe taken off my ovary when I was 23 or something, and I was like, "How?" And they took.
She's
part of
not
my
joking. I
ovary.
saw the picture
Yeah.
and they named it.
We named it the cantaloupe baby,
Oh my God.
and that was after they drained 2 liters to get it out of me. And I was like sitting there in shock, like, how could this happen? And I asked my doctor, my gynecologist who did the surgery, I said, am I going to be able to have kids? This has an effect. And he goes, call me when you want to get pregnant. You'll be fine. And then, 8 years of just every, fertility treatment, acupuncture, all of the things, I wasn't fine. And if anyone had ever told me how to manage it, if I had had CBD when I was in my 20s, I can't even imagine what my life would have been like. And that alone with someone actually teaching me what hormone levels are supposed to be, like what
they're
that
supposed to-
means.
right.
And if you're like Shayna and you just don't generally have problems, but you know what I told you the other day, like your periods have gotten kind of bad. You should probably look. There's
It
some.
takes your best friend to tell you that, by the way.
Well, once they start
Like-
getting really bad, and just I mean,
Well, it takes someone who basically lives with you to know when
Absolutely.
when you're hitting the bell jar pretty bad. But I'm like, that's your body saying
Yes.
something's out of whack. And
Yeah.
you got to look at that. And our American brains specifically just aren't trained to say, gosh, I'm actually not supposed to have cramps that make me crawl on the floor. I'm actually not
Yeah.
supposed to break into hot sweat at night at 32.
Imagine if that happened to men. I mean,
no.
like,
well, I mean, that's just the thing. It's like so many things would be different, right?
sure.
And
Well, thank God John Boehner's growing hemp. Because now it's all going to change.
All we have to say.
I don't know if that's going to fix our problems, ladies. That doesn't give me a lot of hope. But in bringing this up, you bring up a really, really important topic that, and I didn't realize, I mean, I think along my life and my journey, I realized how messed up it was that I was always in chronic pain. But I am no longer, actually, sometimes I'll hit chronic pain. I'm not in chronic pain anymore. But if we think as a collective, as just all the women sitting listening to this right now, how much we've been through with our trauma and our reproductive or whatever, reproductive, infertility, miscarriages, sexual assault. I mean, women,
weight gain, metabolism issues, acne, all of it.
all of it, acne. I mean, I had to go on
migraines.
Yeah, I mean, I tried CBD for my menopausal, and it doesn't work. So yes, it doesn't. But American minds need to understand that doctors are not our first call. It's like, listen to your body. And then I think we just rely so much on the medical system, which is set up for us really just to stay sicker.
Mm-hmm.
It
know?
feels like a silver bullet, but it's, what I learned, especially going through fertility treatments and so many years of fucking acupuncture. But I learned is that you got to get to the root of the problem. And, so many things that we take over the counter mask the symptom. So instead of asking yourself, why do I have a headache? Why am I hungry? Am I tired? Am I depressed? Is it allergies? Like there's so many reasons to have a headache that you could fix rather than just choking down for a leave. That you just have to shift
It's
your
a
mind.
paradigm shift.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. And that is one of the reasons we started Ellamenta, was because once again, the cannabis industry left out an entire demographic, half the planet.
Yeah.
And the ones
So-
that buy everything.
Right.
PS.
We buy everything. We make most of the household decisions, especially the health decisions.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to start with women. And I truly believe this is such a, when I hear myself say this, I'm like, okay, that's the hippie back at Fort Lewis College. Come on, we're grown up now. But I truly believe hemp and cannabis will heal the planet.
Mhm.
We need that. So hemp can heal all toxins, like just like that, and it grows fast. It heals air pollution
Just by being a plant?
just by being planted.
Wow.
So we are at the right time for this. We need this planet healed, and I feel like there's a lot of human healing that needs to happen.
Yeah. And now's the time. I mean, people are more conscious of, alternative. I hate to use that word because it should be the mainstream.
Well, it
you
will
know?
be. It will be.
Well,
But
and,
you're
the,
right.
and the stigma, and even if you just like to smoke weed to get high, the stigma behind that is still
Guilty.
pretty
It's
intense.
still huge.
Yeah.
It's unreal. We live in Denver. Do you guys go through that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't smoke a ton recreationally, only because I've never really found the right dose. I'm such a lightweight that I just can't function the way I can if I have a couple drinks.
Sure.
And I know logically, I know enough to know that like it's so much better for you than alcohol.
Mhm.
But I just don't hang around a group of people that just smoke a bunch of weed just naturally. I don't know. I guess there's always a part of me when I walk into a dispensary that's like, yeah, guilty or
So we're still coming out of that, just say
Prohibition.
no. And they
Mhm.
did a really, really great job of brainwashing us and making it seem as if cannabis was a killer.
well, I mean, is it killing your brain cells? Is it doing the
No.
things? Is it making you slower? Is it going to induce Alzheimer's? All
I
the
mean,
things we
do I
hear?
want my kids to smoke the amount of weed that I smoked in college when they're in college? I gotta say no.
Well, of course, I don't want, and I consume in front of my kids daily. And I used to drink in front of my kids, and I can tell you they'd much prefer to see healthy, alert, happy mom than drunk on the floor mom.
Sure.
Well,
And
absolutely.
So they are finding that cannabis and CBD are helping with Alzheimer's.
That's amazing.
So
Wow.
no, all the things that you've been told and that we hear, we have to relearn.
Mhm.
Really?
Because it's not true.
And what about, in Colorado, now that it's been legal, everyone says there's this rise in homelessness. It's because people are coming here because the weed is legal. I mean, people are saying there's a rise in car accidents. I mean, yeah, you can't drive high. Like you can't drive impaired, period. If you're not able to open your door, you should get behind a car.
I totally agree with that. And I would say that the local, what is it, CDOT, has put stuff in place to now test drivers
Mhm.
for something called Delta 9. Now,
Ooh.
Delta 9 is, I don't know exactly how they're testing for it, and if I don't know if it's out, but that's what they're going to start testing for to measure if you're high. Here's
It's like a
the
blood
thing.
level thing.
I think so, and I don't know how it's coming across. I had a call with somebody months ago, but the thing is that's tough about this is if I smoked this morning and I'm driving 6 hours later, I still have cannabis in my system. So what are they
Mm.
going to do with that? And honestly, I have panic attacks, panic disorder.
Mhm.
I was not able to drive on a freeway for 20 years. I will consume and drive.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I am
Microdose.
yes.
Yeah.
I am focused. I am alert. I am not shaking on the
Mhm.
wheel. Like I can drive.
Mhm.
Mm.
So I don't want to encourage anyone to sit behind the wheel and get stoned. That's not what I'm saying. But
Well, I mean, it's better than someone on Benadryl behind the wheel. I mean,
Well,
this
right.
is like
God.
this is
Or-
where the
or-
hypocrisy
or
lies.
oxy.
Oxycodone or anything.
or
Right.
alcohol.
Or,
I mean, and
yeah.
and that alcohol is so prevalent and so acceptable, and it's on every corner. And then you've got some of the women and the pioneers in this industry trying to normalize it,
Mhm.
because why should we have to hide? Why does that person get to have 5 glasses of wine and I can't sit here and smoke a joint?
No, and Shay and I talk about this. We've talked like, when are we going to tell the girls about marijuana? Now in Denver, there's billboards and it's coming out, and Evie's like, "What's that? What's a dispensary?" And I feel myself pulling back from telling her, because some of my narrative as a mom is don't do drugs, or
Sure.
Prince died from taking drugs, and don't do drugs. But also we drink, and we drink in front of our kid.
Right. And
so
it's
what's
poison.
the diff? Right.
I mean, it is essentially
Right.
poison.
Right. And I
And
think,
so
but
there
they
is
don't,
no
she doesn't
difference.
see me falling down drunk
Well,
ever.
right.
She sees me
Right.
responsibly using it.
Right.
So what's the difference between that and just pulling out?
There
My
there
vape pen.
shouldn't be. There shouldn't be. And honestly, like, I mean, if Prince, Tom Petty, all these people had just
Not
been
taking the
managing their
opioids.
pain with
Mhm.
cannabis, then they'd be alive.
Yeah.
The kids asked the other day why so many singers die of drugs, and I was like, honey, you just know about the singers because they're famous. Lots of people die of drugs.
That's a very good point.
So I was just trying to like bring, because they're just like, oh, if you're a famous singer, you're gonna die of drugs.
Right.
No.
Seems to have been the narrative lately, but yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
It's
But it's just
true.
because we know about it. But
It
every
is.
day people are dying from opiates.
But you
and-
don't die. You can't die from cannabis, can you?
You cannot die from cannabis.
you can't overdose on.
You cannot overdose on
THC.
cannabis. You cannot.
Cannabis. I'm really killing it
Can't
with the
it.
puns today.
Cannabis. You can't. There will be some of the arguers out there that are like, there's some guy out there now saying it causes psychosis.
Oh, that book.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
which is
that
just
Gladwell endorsed or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Sorry.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah,
Idiot.
totally. I mean, if it was going to cause psychosis, I would have been there.
Oh,
Mhm.
sure.
You
I
know,
guess you're right.
Right? Because I pretty
Even
much,
with the benzo that you're still on.
Yeah. I would have been there.
But like you
Um,
said, it's about finding the balance. Like I know people who, like, for example, I'm just good on weed. It's chemically very good with my body.
mhm,
I know other people that don't like to smoke weed or get high
mhm.
in the way that I do because it doesn't feel good to them.
Right.
So
right.
like you said, the skin cream for acne works for some people and it doesn't work for others.
Right.
Some people can have 1 glass of wine and need to fall under a table, and another person can have 4 glasses of wine and be completely, I drink straight whiskey and can have normal conversations.
Mhm.
Another person will have a sip of straight
Mhm.
whiskey and have to go to sleep.
Mhm.
You have to learn what your body can handle chemically, and everyone is so different.
Well, and I love
So-
the idea that THC in small amounts, doesn't get you high. So especially, I think, anxiety for sure, especially with moms, and just stress. If you can rework your brain to say, okay, I'm not taking drugs, any more than
It's a plant.
it's plants, but I'm not doing this to check out from the world. I'm doing it to check in.
That is one of the most important statements today, because that is what I feel like so many, and myself, are eager to do, is check out, whether it's through Netflix or drugs or whatever it is, sex. I mean, there's so many ways to check out. This is the first time that I know when I'm hungry. I know, I would be that girl that just doesn't eat because it's too much of a hassle. And I just don't cook, and I don't care. If I could eat a pill and be fed, I'd be happy. But now I've learned to appreciate when my body's hungry, and I nourish it. I go on walks every morning. It used to be, I'm not going walking. There's no shopping. There's nothing. There's no end game.
Diversion. Mhm.
Right? I go on a walk every morning. I'm present with my kids, and also, the mundane life that sometimes it
Mhm.
becomes pounds of laundry and
Mhm.
homework and soccer and football
Dishes
and
and-
dishes, and I mean, that is a lot. And it used to be for me that I would come home to wine, And now I come home to something very intentionally and use it with intention. And I'm so grateful that I'm awake.
And would you say that you're sober then?
Yes.
Okay.
100%. Now that for some that's laughable, right? But I've been in the rooms of AA plenty. So, yes, this is the most sober I've ever been in my life, which is, I mean, kind of astonishing and
Ashley,
unexpected.
Oh my God.
we are so grateful that you could come here with us today and educate us. I've
So my
learned.
brain's just like buzzing.
I've learned so much, and I think it's just so helpful because it is this mysterious subject. So
Yeah.
we're really grateful, and we're so grateful that you created Ellamenta. 'Cause
Yeah.
what a cool thing to check out. You guys have to check
It's
out
such a good
Ellamenta.com.
website because that's the other thing I would say. And also you like CBD Project, or I think it's Project
It's the,
CBD.
I think it's Project CBD is really good. And also we are, if you want to join like a private group on Facebook and not be
Mm.
exposed, but be able to ask questions
Mm.
and learn, or just, be a wallfly. Is it a wallfly?
No, it's a wallflower or a fly,
a fly on the wall.
Fly on the wall.
You know what? Good pun. She makes it up.
I'm into it.
Yeah,
I
wallfly.
love it. Wallfly. So if you want to be
It's
a
actually a
wallfly,
weed fly.
you can join our groups on Facebook. So we have Ellamenta, California, Ellamenta, Canada, Ellamenta,
Colorado.
Atlanta. I mean, yes, Ellamenta, Colorado.
Do you have a national, or do you have them for every state?
We have them mostly for the states we're in: Arizona, Michigan. I mean, if you go to our websites, you'll see all the states, and then there is a private Facebook group that coordinates with that state also, so you can have that community.
But
That's cool.
if your state isn't there,
Then look at our website and apply
or pick a state
to
and
be a
just join up.
gathering leader
Oh,
in your
that's fun.
state.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
that.
I mean, it's just women in the community that want to do what we're sitting here doing right now.
But I
Mhm.
guess what I'm getting at, why I like your website and Project CBD is, half of us are going to turn off this podcast and just start Googling shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems like it might be a bad idea,
It
given
could
the
be.
amount of misinformation that's out there. And
Mhm.
every report comes from a different point of view. I mean, obviously you come from you're very pro, so obviously your reports are skewed too. But
Right.
um,
Ellamenta is a great site to start integrating and learning. And that is why we created it. It's a wonderful site. There's also a really good one is Leafly, leafly.com. They're great. They're focused on education. But yeah, I wouldn't go start. I mean, you could go start Googling microdose or low THC, but I would just go to Ellamenta because it's all there. And I mean, we're starting to be able to work with people and work with them through this process. Like, how much should we take and what are the ratios? So,
And specifically for women and women's issues.
it is women, it is female identifying only. And that is very on purpose because we're dealing with illnesses. And quite frankly, I don't need men in the room when I'm talking about my moist vagina
unmoist
Sure.
vagina
until later.
until you need them for that
exact
thing.
purpose.
I mean, there's safe spaces,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and there is a lot of trauma and illness.
Yeah, I mean, we
and
haven't even talked about. I'm imagining like MS,
it's great for
even
MS.
lupus. I'm thinking of all the autoimmune diseases, Lyme,
Hashimoto's.
Hashimoto's. I had thyroiditis, and no longer. It's where you go way up and then way down, and way up and way down every day.
Gosh.
Oh.
What about like IBS and
Oh, it's fabulous for IBS because
That's going to be the butt one.
that could be the butt one, but we don't know, right?
butt BS?
But
But
BS.
but we don't.
Cannabis. That's when you use the
Cannabis.
cannabis.
IBS though, it's inflammation.
inflammation.
Yes.
Right? So if you look at every dis-ease, the number one thing is inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can kill that, then you have a
We
good
can live
sla-
forever.
Yeah. You have a clean slate. You're working with a cleaner slate.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much.
You know what? Thank you for having me. I could do this forever.
Us too.
We are on tour. We
got a tour update.
You guys, Tracy, finally,
Most important tour update.
finally got to see the cherry blossoms.
I saw the cherry blossoms, you guys.
Everyone I ran into yesterday, by the way, now that we've been back, like at school pickup, was like, saw you got to see the cherry blossoms.
I know.
If you follow us on Instagram and
I
you follow
kinda-
the stories,
I kind of blossomed out.
it was
I
blossomy.
was so excited, and I
She
was
even
so,
bought a donut called the cherry blossom.
By the way, one of the best
Ate the
donuts I've
shit
ever
out of
had.
it.
It was so unbelievably delicious at the Union Market in DC. I love DC. It was so fun, and those cherry blossoms. What a real treat to be able to. Sometimes our job does have legit perks, and that was one of them.
Well, I was glad that we put down our work for like 2 seconds and went and spent some time checking out some stuff. We saw the Lincoln Memorial.
We walked the reflecting pool.
We did.
We saw the Martin Luther King Memorial as we walked into the tidal
That's
basin
right.
to see.
And then we got oysters.
We got our oysters, and I got a lobster roll.
Yep. And then we went and did
Another show.
another show.
Yeah, I love DC. I don't know how y'all deal with the traffic. It's mind blowing. And I lived in LA, and it's unbearable.
We did. We also had like a very traumatic first night in the hotel where
Oh my gosh.
we had to share a bed again. We rarely have to share a bed. It's not a big deal. I don't mind sharing a bed with Tracy, but we prefer not to share a bed. I mean, we are like 40 years old. And so the only room they had available at midnight when we got in that night had a sleeper sofa in the room. So I was like, well, I'll just sleep on the sleeper sofa for this one night. And when I pulled it out, you guys were still like gagging.
I can't. I'm literally.
Blah, blah. Like they took off that room, but it was pretty rough.
It was disgusting.
And it just proves how incredibly glamorous our life is. Super glam.
Super glam.
Although City Winery was super glam. That place is
Oh
amazing.
my gosh. And that white wine.
Oh yeah, they gave us like this effervescent white wine.
Oh my gosh, it was so good. It was too good.
If you have a chance to
drank
go to a
little too
City
much.
Winery,
Yeah, what a fun venue and business model. I'm just crazy about them.
and then we ended our night with beef nachos. So that's our tour update.
it was quite a little adventure over on the East Coast.
Yeah. So we're home for a little bit, and then we get to go to Salem, Oregon, finally.
Finally, I won't be puking.
She will not be puking. We are very excited to go to Salem and then Modesto, California.
2 great shows.
And then we're going to Dallas, back to Dallas. It's our 3rd time in Dallas?
I think so, yeah.
3rd or 4th, probably. I think it's our 4th.
I don't
It
know.
is.
Yeah. Is it
Yeah, because
really?
we did the Kessler,
Oh.
and then we did the Comedy
Addison.
Club, and then we did last year
The-
Texas Theater.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And then San Antonio, and then Orville, California at the casino.
It's at a casino.
Um,
And by the way, if anyone up in the Oroville, Chico area, apparently there's a billboard of us, which we just can't get over. And if you're hearing this and you know where that billboard is and you can take a picture, you will totally make our day. 2 moms in Denver who've never been on a billboard. I'm so excited.
Although
just to
my
see it.
graphic design OCD is going to be like, I didn't
know.
design that billboard.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to see it.
Okay,
She's
big,
gotta calm
big
down.
Shayna and Tracy faces. And so
And then we've got so many shows all through May.
we really do the Mother's Day extravaganza.
The Mother's Day extravaganza in Denver. We still have tickets available for our Mother's Day Eve show at the Paramount.
And then there's a Mother's Day right after Mother's Day, the following Saturday in Huntington, New York. So if you're looking for something to ask for Mother's Day,
Well, any of the shows, frankly, if any of
Sure.
our remaining shows, you can certainly ask for tickets. And that's an easy thing for your motherfucker to get you. All he has to do is make a couple clicks and you've got a night out.
that's true.
So
So we'll see you soon. We'll see you next week, and join our Band of Mothers Facebook group. And
if there's cherry blossoms in Salem, let me know. I'll be there. They won't be like DC though.
we also cannot wait to hear what you think of this episode. So
Yeah.
always let us know and leave reviews, please.
Bye.